Hello everyone. Mostly good morning. Before anything, please let me know if you can hear me and see me properly. And my beautiful last year's Christmas tree is still there. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Just a thumbs up or a yes would be enough. I hope so. Anyway, just welcome to you all. If you're all good. Okay, thanks. Good. Well, Happy New Year to all of you. Whatever the conditions, the situations, the place, the things, we know it's just, shift of the calendar. Just went from one day to another, 1 week to another, 1 month to another. But yet, it's still a new year. So, okay, thanks, friends. I can see that everyone's listening to me. So, good. So, Happy New Year to you all. Welcome back to this wonderful Sangha. Welcome back to this marvelous place we all have. It's kind of a refuge, isn't it? So, if you're here for the first time, well, warm welcome to you and welcome to the Sangha. And if you are watching this on the replay, well, welcome to you all. We're starting a new week, kicking a new week of daily meditations. This week starts, and this year starts with James Rafael. Some of you, I believe many of you know James already. He's been teaching with us since last year, and hopefully you will continue. And we're kicking off this year with New Year Habits and Hindrances, which is quite appropriate, I think. So, James is a mindfulness and movement teacher, living and teaching in the joyful chaos of central London. I love central London, by the way. He began formal practice in 2011 under the teachings of S.N. Goenka during a time of substance addiction and burnout while living in Soho. He is a yoga, somatics, and Qigong teacher, having been trained and authorized to teach mindfulness through Martin Aylward and Mark Coleman. He has been sober since 2015. He read English at Cambridge University and emphasizes the importance of inclusive language, mindful communication, the power of poetry, and creating queer inclusive, progressive spaces to learn and practice in. He leads retreats, teacher trainings, and workshops internationally and online via his online platform. Key influences in his teaching have been S.N. Goenka, Charlotte Joko-Beck, Martin Aylward, and Mark Coleman. I will let you have James' webpage link by the end of the session. So welcome, James. I know you're back there somewhere, so we'll be seeing you in a while. And before that, he's coming. He's showing up. Hi, James. So in a minute, I will let James take the mic. Just for now, to remind you that we'll be here for roughly for an hour. James will give a small talk. I'm hopeful that he will also give some poetry. He has some very good poems to share with us usually. And then he'll guide us through silent meditation, practice, and then there's some time at the end for some Q&A. For the Q&A, you can use the chat box. If you do so to type your question, start by typing question in capital letters so that, James can know what is the question, what is just a comment. You're happy to do all your comments, but if you need to ask a question, type question before. Otherwise, you can also come on screen, and if you want to come on screen and have a more direct interaction with James, then you have the little virtual hand on the bottom of the screen. You click on that, and I will make my best to bring you on. We'll just bring on the corner, and then you can open up your mic and talk. Last thing I want to speak about is Dana, of course. We had a very strong year last year at Sangha Live. Lots of new ideas and new things coming on. The Sangha has increased. We have a lot of other projects for this year, a lot going on. And we would love to keep on. But as it has been since the beginning, we just rely on your generosity for that. We don't have any other kind of sponsors, any other kind of income, only the donations. So if you feel inclined to that, and you can keep on donating, see it as hard work from you all to us and from us to you. And in the whole, we're all the same. It's all the Sangha. We're doing something to provide you with an ongoing practice in this platform. And as you hear, you are giving us the substance to keep on. So whether it's a small or a large donation, a regular or just one off, it really doesn't matter at all. What matters is the continuity and the presence and the commitment which you all show by here. It's 106 people and growing in this moment, and that's the beautiful thing of this. So I think I've spoken enough. I'm taking too much time from James. So very nice to see you back on this platform. Please enjoy the session. Please have a very good year, and we'll keep seeing each other around. Thank you.
Oh. Thank you so much, George. Hello, everybody. It's always such a joy to see the chat box, the Sangha going strong as ever. It's wonderful to see different locations. I can see people dialing in from further afield to me here in London, in Cape Town, Germany, Barcelona, France, and also others of you also here in London. So just acknowledging how lovely it is to be together. So welcome, everybody. And thank you, George, for the introduction. It's great. It means I don't have to introduce myself and we can just move into the practice. So I know many of you are experienced long-term meditators, come to many of these daily sessions with Sangha Live. I also know a few of you may be newer to the practice or just starting to find your feet or maybe returning to practice. And so I'll aim to strike a balance this week of offering a little bit of instruction for those of you who are newer, but also just giving that blissful gift of silence for us to sit and practice together as well. So this first morning, I'll talk a little bit more just to lay out the topic for this week. And I was thinking what might be helpful around this time of year, this kind of cultural movement we often feel towards aspirations or goals or habit change. And so if you resonate with that, we'll explore both the perspective from the traditional teachings of Buddha, but also a little bit contemporary understandings of habit formation, breaking habits. And habits are really dear to my heart in the practice. As George alluded to, addictive, self-destructive behavioral patterns were very much something I came to the practice with. And something which gradually over the years, the practice really helped to unpick and to release. And so newer, more helpful or more skillful behaviors could take root and really flourish. And so I hope to share from that experience with you this week. So this word, hindrance, it's a funny word in English. And if English isn't your first language, hindrance, sometimes we can use the word obstacle. It's a good correlate. And the Buddha taught that in practice, we often encounter one or more of 5 hindrances, 5 obstacles to our practice. If you're new to meditation, this can be really helpful to know that if you're feeling agitated or you want to be somewhere else or you're doubting yourself, to know that those are quite normal experiences in the practice. And by engaging with these different obstacles, different hindrances, we can learn to stay a little bit and really be with what's coming up. And sometimes that transforms, sometimes it doesn't. But those of you who have experience working with these 5 hindrances, if you're more experienced or more consistent in your practice, returning to them really can be this incredible gateway into deeper concentration or deeper concentration states. That often what we find is when the hindrances really simmer down and settle, maybe become absent for a period, very deep concentration is possible. And then from that deep concentration and focus, we can gain a lot of insight, a lot of embodied or experiential wisdom. So I think they're really, really helpful, whatever point in practice you're at. So it's sometimes said that we live our life on a bit of an autopilot. And some research suggests somewhere between 40% and 95% of our lives are habits. It's sort of quite a big percentage gap that maybe you feel you're higher towards the end of that spectrum or lower to that end of the spectrum. But to some degree, to function in life, there has to be some degree of habit or automation. And really what this practice might offer us is a way of identifying habits or automatic traits that we have that we can shift or change. Habits that we might accept, there's nothing to fix. And new skillful techniques or habits which might help carry us forwards in life to maybe more peace or more happiness or more acceptance and compassion. And so there's a story that I really like. I'll share a lot of stories this week. There's a story that I like that exemplifies these 5 obstacles in the form of a beautiful pond in a forest. So I'll take a few minutes to share the story with you. You're welcome to close your eyes, you're welcome to watch, whatever feels right in the moment. And some of you may know the story of the Buddha's pond. And I tried to find reference for this in the suttas, in the ancient texts, and I couldn't. I think it might be a contemporary extrapolation, but it's useful nonetheless. So, if I can invite you to come with me and find yourself in a beautiful, dense forest. You might imagine yourself there. Around you, the ancient trunks of trees rise to the sky. The earth is warm beneath your feet. And above you, the great branches of the trees and their leaves let in a dappled, emerald green light. And this is a calm, peaceful, and safe place. And as you walk through this calm, peaceful forest, you find a beautiful pond, a pool. The pond is very inviting. So you come to sit down at the edge of the pond in a comfortable position. And curious, you look over the edge of the pond into the water because you'd like to really see your own reflection, really see who you are. And as you look into the pond, we encounter the first hindrance, the first obstacle. This beautiful, clear pond, like a beautiful, clear mind, has become clouded with pink dye, pink-colored dye. And so as you look towards your reflection, it looks very rosy, very appealing, but it's not quite the truth. And this pink dye can symbolize the first hindrance, desire craving, clinging to. It's the obstacle which takes us out of practice, pulling us towards something else. There's this other thing I'd rather do than meditate. There's this nice thing over there in the fridge that I'd like to go and get. Or there's a conversation I'd rather have than being here. But we can't see our reflection clearly when the pond is clouded with pink dye. So you take a breath and you look again into the water. And this time, the water is bubbling. It's boiling. Bubbles bursting on the surface. And so your reflection is all chaotic. You can't see yourself in the water. There's this turbulent, boiling, bubbling water. This is the second obstacle, what we might call aversion, or not wanting, disliking. This is pushing away. It's a push away. Things aren't how I want them to be. Practice doesn't feel how I want it to feel, and I don't like it. I want to push it away. So you take another breath. You gaze into the pool again. And this time, this magical changing pool has become filled with thick green algae, thick weeds. You can't see your reflection. You dip your fingers into the weeds to try and move them, but the weeds are slimy and sticky. They bind your fingers. It's difficult to move your hand in the water. This is the third hindrance, sometimes called sloth and torpor. It's quite archaic. This can be a sleepiness, a spacing out, a zoning out. It can be a feeling of collapsed energy, being very tired, difficult to focus because you keep nodding off. This is the third obstacle. You take another breath. You gaze into the water for the fourth time. A great wind, a gale, has swept through the forest, and the surface of the water becomes choppy. There's great waves, deep ripples, and the water becomes very agitated. And it's difficult to see the truth of your reflection. It's this fourth hindrance, sometimes called agitation or restlessness. It's the opposite of the previous one. It's a feeling of having too much energy. I don't know what to do with this. It's irritating to sit still. I want to leave. It feels uncomfortable because I'm agitated. I want to move a lot. This is a very common hindrance for people who are newer to the practice. So you take a breath. You gaze into the water for the fifth time. And the water this time is thick with mud and silt. Thick, murky, dark water. It's very clouded and dense, and you can't see your reflection clearly. So the fifth and final obstacle is doubt. Doubt. In the sense that doubt muddies and clouds the mind and our being and our ability to see our reflection, but also our ability to trust who we are. So the fifth obstacle is doubt. You take a breath. The water returns to its clear, calm, peaceful surface. So maybe something in that little story is helpful or useful to you. It helps to articulate or visualize these different obstacles. We're going to work with these throughout the week. We'll focus a little bit more on one or two of them each day. But often all of these things are present at the same time to smaller or greater degrees. And so rather than purely focusing on one hindrance each day, we'll really work to sense what's alive in the present moment, what's here. And I want to offer a caution. And the caution is this. When we locate or identify with one of these obstacles, often our reaction is to try and push it away, to want to change it, to want to fix it, to want to remove it. My meditation practice is no good because I'm falling asleep all the time. Or I'm a terrible meditator, I don't know what I'm doing, I can't possibly ever get anywhere, so I'm just going to leave. This practice is really about staying gently, compassionately, but really being curious as to what's here and really sensing what these hindrances are made up of, what the experience of agitation is in your body. And can we be with that without necessarily trying to change it? It's a hard one. So I think I've talked enough as an intro. Shall we sit, friends? So just taking a moment to find a comfortable posture, whatever that is for you today. If you're working with a condition, an illness, an injury that makes sitting very challenging, there might be another posture that works for you today. But choosing something where it's comfortable, but easy to be alert, present, awake. We'll begin and end with the sound of the bell. So, whichever posture you find yourself in, and sensing into the areas that feel stable or steady in your body right now. The contact with the ground beneath, or with the cushion or the chair. And is there a way that your body could really receive that support, receive that steadiness of ground beneath? And then from that steadiness, an invitation to sense the length of your spine. And you might imagine or invite a sense that the spine feels bright, alive, awake. And then noticing if anything could soften the muscles of your face, around your eyes. Could anything release a little bit at the jaw, the throat? abiding calmly in your posture. And within this temple of the posture you're in, sensing the breath residing in the temple. And you might sense the movement, the rhythm of your breathing in a very general sense in your body. Or perhaps there's a specific area where it's really easy to connect with. And we can keep returning to the breath as the anchor, the thing which settles or steadies us over and over, returning. And you might sense the field of your awareness, what you notice, is a little bit like the pond, the pool in the story. And an invitation to sense if there is anything pulling you out of the practice right now. Desire, craving, wanting something. Noticing without judging, if possible. The second invitation. Perhaps noticing if there's anything you're trying to push away or resist, aversion, ill will, things you don't want. The third invitation. Is there any experience of sleepiness, lethargy, sloth, torpor, or simply a zoning out? And the fourth invitation. Is there any sense of agitation, restlessness? Just noticing without judgment if possible. And the fifth invitation. Is there any sense of doubt? Doubting if you're doing it right, doubting yourself, doubting others. Gently noticing. And we'll spend these last 15 minutes in silence. But an invitation, if one of these hindrances feels really strong, noticeable, how might you be curious as to how that manifests? Sensations in the body, movements of the mind, emotions, curious to whatever obstacle may be there. Just noticing what's really alive in the field of your awareness right now. And whatever is present, is there a way of softening or offering a little compassion to what's present? And as we draw to a close, I'll share lines from an ancient Chinese poem from the poet Li Po. It goes like this. The birds have vanished into the sky, and now the last cloud drains away. We sit together, the mountain and I, until only the mountain remains. The birds have vanished into the sky, and now the last cloud drains away. We sit together, the mountain and I, until only the mountain remains. So, it's coming into a different expression of presence, perhaps, a more visual. And as the sessions progress throughout this week, I'll offer more detail of really how to work or engage skillfully with these different obstacles, little tips or orientations in your practice that might be helpful. But also, in my experience, we experience these 5 hindrances in the practice, but we also experience them in day-to-day life. They're very present and active as you go about your day. And so there's a sense that the practice as a microcosm can really help us identify, become familiar with some of the sticky stuff which causes us to act out, causes us to create different patterns and habits. And through this practice of really just learning to stay gently, stay compassionately with whatever's present, can be really powerful in day-to-day life for doing the same thing. So we can take skillful action rather than reacting habitually to everything. So that's the promise or the hope of engaging with these particular ideas. So in a moment we'll open up to Q&A, to questions or just general observations or comments. But one thing to say, I will talk a little bit more about kind of habit from the contemporary or scientific perspective a little bit this week as well. And there's many different things that people will tell you to do, like micro habits, start small, habit chaining or habit stacking, as they call it, kind of building a little stack of different habits together, all these different methods and techniques. But the foundation is awareness, because we can't change something unless we're aware of it, right? It's kind of simple wisdom. And so the cultivation of mindful attention or presence or awareness is the essential ground upon which we can build a life with well-chosen habits. And so really, just this sitting practice, meditation practice itself is a wonderful foundation and groundwork. And quite naturally, many of us find our habits change simply because of that. But there are, of course, techniques and skills we can also use. So, as always, friends, if there are questions, feel free to type them in the chat with a lovely capital letter question, just so we can see. Also, if anybody would like to come on the screen, you can raise a hand. I think it's a little hand button down there, and we can bring you on. So I'll give a little space for questions or observations. And if not, I can talk a little bit about hindrances and habits some more. See, the chat is fairly quiet. Can everybody hear me right? Yeah, still there? Great. Thanks, George. I had a moment then of the hindrance of doubt rising up. Oh, we've been practicing and it's just been me. No one's been here. You're here. That's great. Thank you, Manuel. So I can see a comment from Nicola Levitt. Hello, Nicola. I'm assuming your name is Nicola. I noticed distractions turned up in my body as tensions around my eyes. Really interesting. Really interesting. I have similar experiences to that as well. I'm sure many others, maybe others in the chat, can correlate or share to that point. That actually the body is tensing and releasing all the time in kind of greater senses or smaller senses. And one perspective I've come across in practice is that the more and more we open to the life that's here, the more and more we're able to stay with what's here, the less and less body tension we find. The body's very relaxed or can be very soft. But of course, there's these times where muscles contract, especially around this area if we're concentrating, kind of furrowed brow. But I noticed that too. Thank you. So I can see a comment from, I'll come back to the comments. I'm just going to see if there's a question. Okay, I'm going to come back to comments, but I can see a question from Joss James. Hello, Joss. Question. What I noticed most was a habit of worrying about others. I tried to bring compassion to this, but was wondering which of the hindrances this fell into and how to work with it. Wonderful observation. Difficult observation, I'm sure. So these hindrances can really be a mixture, right? There can be many things going on at once. I can't tell you what your experience is, but if that was my experience, if I, in my practice, was worrying a lot about others, part of me would think, there's a doubt there. There's kind of a doubt maybe in the world around them, a doubt that they have the support they need. Maybe there's a deeper doubt within myself about, am I doing everything I can to support? Yeah. Or will they really be okay if I don't support more than I'm able to? So doubt might be part of that for me, if this was me. And also there can be a worrying, and it's simply kind of I'm accepting I'm worried. There can be a worrying that we then attach an aversion to. It's like, I'm worried and I hate that I'm worried. I'm so annoyed with myself that I'm worried. I wish I wasn't worried. So there can be layers to this. And really with these obstacles, I think at first, as it sounds like many of you are doing, it's really feeling the feeling in the body. And if there's a way we can initially uncouple initially uncouple from the desire to change that experience. Because we can sit in practice and say, yes, I'm very happy to be with this. It's difficult, but I can be with it. I can stay gentle, compassion. But there's nearly always some degree of a residue of resistance around it. I'm not saying that shouldn't be there, but we can get curious as to what that experience also feels like. And it might be that the worry doesn't change, it doesn't shift, it's present, but we can be more comfortable with it. And we might arrive at skillful action or skillful choice as to what to do next. Hope something in that is helpful, Joss. I'm just having a little scan for other questions. Okay, I'm going to go back to comments. I can see a comment from Ruth. Hello, Ruth. Want to say how much it means to sit with you, deepest bows. Given the journey towards sobriety you've been on and how much the practice has supported you in this. Absolutely. This is a journey I share. It's great to meet a fellow traveller on that path. This year, having finished the training with Tara Brach and Jack Cornfield, I have a friend doing that. It's great, apparently. I profoundly understood the toxicity of certain things in my life. This included alcohol and toxic marriage, both of which I have freed myself from in the last 8 months. The power of the practice knows no bounds. I am so grateful. I'm quite moved to read that, Ruth. Thank you so much for sharing, and congratulations, on finding a way forwards. So, thank you, Heidi, for your comments. I found the pond story so helpful. Naming the hindrance is powerful. I really agree. This naming can really help us grapple with things a little bit more. Hello, Sina. Lovely to have you here. And I can see a question has popped up from Kevin. So hello, Kevin. Can you speak about multiple hindrance attack? I really like that expression. There's something kind of comical in the awfulness of a hindrance attack. So there's often these different layers that are happening. And, if you're sitting for 15, 20, 30 minutes or more, it can be that they come and go in waves. One thing that can be really helpful or interesting in my own experience, at least, is that we can get very fixated on when the hindrance is present and how many and how strong and what do I do with this. But it can be really useful to notice when they are absent. So if there are multiple hindrances occurring, it might be sensing, okay, I'm agitated, I'm restless, I'm wanting this, pushing that away. But because I'm so agitated, actually, there isn't much sloth and torpor there. There isn't much sleepiness there because I'm so agitated. And there's two things that they can coexist, but often it's a little bit more separate with those two. So really sensing into the absence of the hindrance and this ground level sense of stability within that one absent hindrance can be really powerful. So that's something I would offer to explore with a multiple hindrance attack. So I can see there is another question from Jenny and a couple more comments. I'm conscious of the time. I think there's only a couple, so I will address them briefly. And anything that we can't get to in the chat today, we'll take a note of and address tomorrow, or we can send separately. So just addressing Jenny's question. Hello, Jenny. So good to have you here. I was thinking of you this morning. When you bring curiosity to the hindrance, how do you manage not getting lost in thoughts? It's really challenging. And for me, that was very much the case with this hindrance of sleepiness or kind of zoning out. That was something I really had to work with for many years. It was one of my kind of big things to work through in the practice. I'd say that initially, when we're sitting, the mind has a tendency to wander a lot. And even if we're practicing very consistently for long periods, that can still happen. But trusting in the process a little bit, that through regular, consistent practice, however long that is, whatever that looks like for you, more and more it becomes easier for the mind to start calming and settling, I've found, and I know many others find that. that there becomes this familiarity with the posture, with the awareness on the breath. And so there might be thoughts, they might be pulling you and distracting you. And you might orient your practice a little bit towards, rather than staying and staying and staying and never getting distracted, what if the orientation of your practice was simply about returning? So what we're really kind of focusing on might be, how can I return? How can I notice, okay, great, I've got lost, I've come back. That's the moment, right? That's the moment of remembering, of mindfulness, sati. So you could orient in that way. That's when you come back. Okay, wonderful friends. Thank you for your comments. If there's anything I've missed, I will address it tomorrow. And thank you for your presence. I can't wait to spend this week with you as we build towards the Friday. Deepest bows and lots of love, everyone.